Um, my name is Maurice Daly. I'm from across the pond in Ireland. I'm a enterprise mobility MVP, and I work for a company called TrueSec. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Okay, keep it up here. So I've been working in the IT industry for the past 19 years at this stage, a mixture of consultancy and in-house. So I was in-house for about 50% of my time. I'm out doing consultancy work with TrueSec for the past 7 months. And this good gentleman here, our friend, is Harjit. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Harjit Dhaliwal, and I'm a Microsoft MVP in Windows and Devices for IT. I'm also a config manager admin, and I work in the higher ed industry as a senior systems administrator. And I'm catching up to Maurice in terms of years of service to the industry.
Yeah, we've been around for a while at this stage. So if you want, we have a couple of blogs here as well. So I run the SC Configure Manager blog along with a colleague of mine, Nikolai, and Jordan, who's also here in the front row. And Harjit has a Tech Connect Facebook.
Yeah,
group.
please follow, please join the groups, and follow us on Twitter. We share a lot of stuff.
So we'll just give you a brief history of ransomware. So show of hands, first of all. Has anyone been affected by it? Okay, so roughly about 40%. So you know the pain. So we're going to tell you just roughly where it came from, and then we'll step through stuff to help you mitigate against ransomware in your environment.
All right, so the first documented incident of ransomware started in 1989. And it was on a basic level and was infected through diskettes. And it was spread out to about 20,000 folks, and it affected the health industry. It was a hospital that got infected first. Right? So then we started seeing some variants of malware. Of ransomware. You know, we started seeing some fake applications and fake antivirus solutions and stuff like that confused people and infected systems. And eventually, in 2013, we started seeing some a little bit more sophistication with CryptoLocker, and where there was encryption and stuff like that built into the infections. And then CryptoWall too, back in 2014. And that had a little bit more sophistication than CryptoLocker. And what happened is that this started becoming an industry, a money-making industry. And hackers were making over $300 million just from ransomware, starting with CryptoWall.
So SamSam in 2016. I've had an interesting experience with SamSam in particular. So this goes as a targeted attack on your network. And can you think about a scenario where you arrive into work and every single machine on your entire network is encrypted? Lock, stock, and barrel. Backup servers, the whole shebang. That is what I had to deal with, along with many of my colleagues, for a customer who was a victim of a SamSam attack. So it's not a pretty place to be in. And there's a couple of things you can do to mitigate against it. Some are simple, some are complex. It depends on how far you want to go. So we're going to run through all of that as we go through. WannaCry then was a big one that hit the news in 2017. It was something that went almost, if you pardon the pun, viral across the globe within a short period of time. I think you had an interesting story about it.
Yeah, so when WannaCry came out prime time, it was in, I still remember this was May of 2017, and I was at a conference in Minneapolis. And I noticed there were a couple of guys, a couple of sysadmins that looked, they had the look of fright and stressed out and stuff like that. After talking to them, I learned that their organization just got hit with WannaCry while they were there at the conference, and it was about, I think one guy had about 1,000 servers that got ransomized. And one of the things that they told me was that they know, the regret that they had was they didn't do patching, because the patches were available for the last few months before that, and they did not mitigate that with patching.
So here's a demo we just put together. This isn't actual ransomware, but it's just give you an idea of how something can happen, how even a tech-savvy user might do a couple of checks just to see something they received. So I was talking to Harjit the other day, and I said, wouldn't it be great if there was a tool that could download all the videos from Ignite? He said, oh, hey, Maurice, I have that tool. I'm going to send it to you via email. So I trust this guy, right? I know him for years. So I got the email. It has an attachment. So I drop the attachment onto my desktop. Yeah, no big deal. I check it. It seems to be signed. It's from the Microsoft Corporation as well. I'm just going to scan it for a virus, make sure there's nothing in there. Okay, so looks all right. I'll do a couple more checks. And this isn't something your everyday user is going to do anyway. They're going to get it. I'm just going to double click. So I'm happy enough now. I'm going to run it.
You shouldn't have trusted me.
Okay, so I'm going to start downloading. So it's connecting now to my video on demand server in Microsoft. And any minute now, I'm going to get a whole bunch of sessions. Maybe. Should have probably speeded it. Oh, it's downloaded our session, which isn't finished yet. And all of a sudden, all my files on the desktop are encrypted. And, hold on, I'm going to have a look at my script repository. That's bad, right? They're all encrypted files. So what do I do at that stage? Well, it's time to get my backup out. So that's a scenario where you've trusted someone you know, they've sent you something, and that's the key thing. It's not a trust thing anymore. You need to really be able to prevent bad things from happening to you.
All right. So how do you identify and protect this stuff, right? The fundamentals. Educate your end users. Simple. Talk to them, teach them, show them how to look at, email links and websites and stuff like that. Show them stuff that Maurice just demoed, that kind of a thing. Educate your end users to look for these cues so they can ask questions before they take the next step, Identify security holes in your organization, firewalls, ports, passwords. Don't have passwords that don't change for a long time. Implement a good patching strategy. I know a bunch of people that actually won't patch for a couple of months because they're afraid that this month's patches are going to break their systems and things like that. So now we're on a very quick patching cycle. Get that in your schedules. Finally, disable SMB1. That's a deprecated protocol. Move on to something new, right?
Yeah, and I think the key thing again is prevention is the best form of cure. So a lot of what we're just going to go through now is all Windows 10 based features. So how many of you at the moment are still running Windows 7 in your enterprise? Okay, so about 30% of you. Okay, so Windows 10 security features. Ideally, you enable every single one of them, but it's about what's right for you. So you can take some of the basics. So secure boot, credential guard, and app locker would be 3 of the basic things that I would suggest that you all implement in your environment. You can go further, device guard and whitelisting of applications, application control, so that you're whitelisting every single application on the entire machine that you want, or you're taking a golden image and running with that. And any other piece of software won't run. But there's other things. I mean, you've got modern security features of Office 365 and Azure, advanced threat protection. So this is to prevent your users from clicking on that bad link in the first place. Removal of local administrator accounts. this is something that goes back to traditional IT, where for some organizations, it was easier. If the guy who needed to update the software every now and again had local admin rights, 'cause that made it easy, right? Well, that's actually quite a bad thing, because if he has rights to install something, he has rights to do anything on the machine, and bad things can happen. Randomizing local administrator account passwords. Again, the local administrator account is something that should be used once in a blue moon. Why do you need the password to be set every 90 days, or why do you need it just to be set there forever? Password never expires. So, implementing strong passwords for all of your employees. Again, when I talk to people, they have weird conceptions of what strong passwords are. So for many years, password complexity in Active Directory, everyone knows that. And you'll ask someone, do you have password complexity rules in? Or do you have a third-party product or anything like that that's taking care of that? And they'll say, oh, no, my passwords are complex. They have a special character or an upper and lower case and a number. And then how are you implementing that? Oh, it's group policy here. I've ticked that. Okay, well, that's the default one, and then everyone knows how to get around it. So, App Locker. Very simple technology to implement. All you need to do is you can scan a machine, you can look through, you can whitelist applications based on their file path or their publisher or version. Typically, when you implement it, it's going to whitelist the Windows directory, it's going to whitelist the program files directory. And again, if you need to add in extra things, grab that file, look at the publisher, look at the lowest common denominator. If it's, Citrix receiver, for instance, you can whitelist Citrix as a company so that every time they update their software, you don't need to go whitelisting again. Secure boot. This is trusting the bootloader. So if the vendor has trusted the bootloader, the machine will boot. Typically, a ransomware, they will try to overwrite the boot sectors of the drive, and then they'll come up looking for your Bitcoin donation. So this will prevent that, and you will get an immediate warning on boot. And control folder access. New feature, and this just ensures that if something, such as the nice downloader that Harjit sent me earlier, goes and starts modifying all of your files in places like My Documents, that it doesn't do it. It's blocked, prevented straight away, because it's not trusted.
So speaking of secure boot, it requires UEFI. You can enable that, turn on secure boot, and it's basically like an antivirus for your firmware. And there are tools out there, I think Maurice probably has one, that you can convert traditional BIOS to UEFI with scripts and things like that to automate this in your environment.
Yeah, all of the major vendors, and then it's built in these days as well. So. Okay, so how do these technologies work to prevent a ransomware infection? This is a slide taken from Microsoft. And as you can see, so you got the number one, the malicious software is downloading, and you've got device guard and app locker at that stage, protecting the device. So if you've got device guard, it's maybe going to whitelist every single application, or you've got app locker, and it's downloading to an untrusted location, or it's an untrusted publisher. Secure boot, as Harjit was just talking about. So if, for instance, you haven't enabled device guard and app locker, and you run a ransomware file, secure boot then is going to prevent the machine from being encrypted. Patching, something again covered. Patch. As soon as security updates come out, get your user acceptance testing, do a small group, pilot, test the patches. Credential guard is the virtualization or containerization of credentials. So it uses a Hyper-V to ensure that the credentials are not compromised. There are some exceptions where the credentials are stored in clear text for some for some websites and stuff like that. But again, it's another security feature. We've talked about controlled folder access as well. And again, right back to the endpoint of device guard and app locker right at the end as well to protect you. So what would happen in the same scenario where we have controlled folder access turned on? So again, we have the executable. And the virus scan is just running. Okay, so again, it's going to connect. And all of a sudden, right down the bottom right, unauthorized changes blocked. Oh, it has problems downloading the thing. Maybe try disabling your antivirus. That's a good idea. Yeah? And the user at this point is wondering, what just happened? I think I better call IT. But at least at that stage, nothing has happened to their machine. Very simple to implement. Look at the same thing now with App Locker. For some reason, the recording isn't working. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's from the Microsoft Corporation. I was going to check it and make sure again. Looks okay, right? Yeah, let's run it. Oh, blocked. So immediately, doesn't do anything whatsoever. So you can see there in that demonstration how an executable or a payload delivered to you can be prevented from compromising your data in either method. And one of the new things with the controlled folder access, and that second demo that we did, was the ability to restore your files. If anything bad did happen, you can restore your files from OneDrive for business. So it's a really nice feature as well that's been added recently.
Okay, so to protect your environment, start with passwords. You don't need local admin passwords on your systems. You don't need it, right? Use a technology like Labs, Microsoft Labs. It randomizes local admin passwords. You can manage this through group policy. Bring down the reset intervals from whatever it is, like 90 days to daily, reset daily. So if you gave a local admin password to someone, you know very well that they won't be able to access that same credentials the next day. It resets it.
And who here has implemented that, just for my interest? Okay, so quite a few people. Free solution, very easy to use. Removal of local administrator group privileges. Again, this is a business decision for a lot of you. So that guy who needs to install software once in a blue moon doesn't need administrative rights. What you need to do is deliver the software content through the likes of Software Center or the company portal, that they can consume that as needed without elevation of rights. And the new feature which is in preview at the moment, which is Azure Active Directory password policy. So this goes a step beyond what the traditional complex password policy has been in group policy, and it uses a proxy agent to talk to Azure Active Directory and mitigate against 500 of the most commonly used passwords with over 1 million character substitutions as well. So that if they wanted to set password 1 with $signs instead of S's, because no one would ever think of doing that, it will block that. And if you've got passwords that you know are out there that people are using, You can also add them into a custom field so you can block all of those. It is in preview at the moment. I'd imagine it's just going to get better as time goes on.
All right. So there are some modern tools out there. You've learned some from here. And to protect your environment, right? You have Office 365 ATP. And it has built-in safe attachment functionality to protect your systems for emails, SharePoint, OneDrive in real time. Then it has also safe links to protect you from bad links and stuff, where it does a redirection and checks all that stuff in your documents and in all these fun places, including email.
Windows Defender Credential Guard, which we spoke about as well, so protects against the user's credentials being harvested. And that's typically what happens with a targeted ransom attack like SamSam, where a hacker will get onto your system, they'll sit there silently, they'll monitor and grab as many credentials as possible so they can hop around your entire network. And Defender ATP, I mean, this is another great thing. I had a customer actually only contact me on Friday, just before I was getting the flight here. And they had a user who had received an email, and they were actually expecting something like this. It came through from a travel company, which I won't name, but they immediately said, this user can't get access to this website. It's a legitimate email. How can I whitelist this for them? And immediately I went, we need to consider what's happening here, because the user has been notified that they're being blocked for a reason. So I took the link, put it into a test VM, and it pulled down a website, and the website is completely black. Okay, that's unusual. And all of a sudden, the control folder access popped up saying setup.exe is trying to modify files in your desktop. So I checked the content of the page, and it was a malicious download. Ran it again. This time I turned off all security features, and all of a sudden I could see that Defender got disabled. And there were lots and lots of connections to many different IP addresses. So in this instance, ATP did a terrific job, because it just came up with application control and said, Outlook is trying to download malicious content. It has been blocked. And it notified the user by email. So it was a really nice feature, and something the customer who had only recently turned on ATP wasn't aware of. And they were like, oh, right, that's what it does. So, thank you.
All right. So identity is key. Protect your identity. It's like having a social security number and stuff like that. You don't give that out, right? And you can get compromised in so many different ways these days. You can no longer look at protecting your environment through the traditional corporate firewall, perimeter and stuff. The reason is, now we have all these as a service kind of stuff. Windows as a service, cloud as a service. So if you have a compromisation in one of these services, then you're opening up security holes in all the other ones. SharePoint, OneDrive, whatever, Windows, things like that. So start looking at it with a big picture. Service as a service.
Yeah, because it was the perimeter of your network before. Now, if they get your credentials, as Harjit said, they're going to hop in. They're going to get access to your HR system, payroll. If you've got software as a service that's authenticated through Azure Active Directory, they're going to get into all of that. So identity protection is key. Enable conditional-based access. So if you, say, have a factory of workers, they come to work, they need to access stuff from your environment, they need to access the Office 365 cloud, and consume information. When they go home in the afternoon, do they need to get into the email? No. So enable conditional-based access based on your IP address or trusted devices, and prevent them from doing that. Or enable multi-factor authentication if they do need to access their information from a untrusted machine. And one of the new things that has been mentioned quite a lot tonight, a world of passwordless authentication. So in the first iteration of this, using the MFA agent as the primary factor authentication. So that's a real new thing for people, that they're going to get a push alert on their phone. and they accept that without putting in their password. So that's where the future is going. I hope that's given you some insight into what you can do with Windows 10. We're running late on time now, so if you have any questions, myself and Harjit are going to be around for about the next 10 minutes, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
If you can just please fill out the evals as well at the end, that really helps. Thank you.